Back once again talking about this fascinating story of Askinosie chocolate. Shawn Askinosie is our guest. When you mentioned about going down to South America at the very early stages to try to learn as you were coming up with this plan, but you've maintained that kind of international footprint for a small company. It's very impressive. Talk to me about where you are around the world and why you are around the world.
Well, Mike, one of our guiding principles is we're not going to buy beans unless I've been there. And that requires a lot of money. It requires a lot of planning. And it's just very, very important to us to deal directly with these farmers and to cut out as many middlemen as we absolutely possibly can, because our chocolate is 100% traceable. Well, when it's going to be 100% traceable, you have to go. And you have to be willing to get on a plane and go to very remote places, and I absolutely love it.
Where have you gone, and where are you dealing with people now?
Well, the first place I went, which was just a life-changing experience, was the Amazon rainforest, primary forest in southern Ecuador near the border of Peru. It was a 2-week walk to the nearest village. And, you know, I mean, it was just, for a lawyer who spends most of the time in the courtroom, I mean, that was just an amazing experience. And so I've been to Ecuador just countless times, back and forth, all over Ecuador. I've been to southern Mexico on the border of Guatemala countless times. And then I just got back from Southeast Asia, and I'd worked with the Philippines there. I'd worked almost 2 years to secure beans from a small group of farmers there, and I went there just a couple of months ago, and that was just an amazing experience. So, yeah, I'm traveling a lot.
What do they have there that you really want? Why there?
History. They have history. It's so exciting because the Spanish first brought cacao to grow in Asia, in the Philippines, in 1600. Well, I knew that the Philippines have not exported cocoa beans since land reform in 1985, but it's a great country for cocoa beans. So I wanted to be a part of that, and we're actually going to be the first people outside the Philippines to enjoy those beans in almost 30 years.
The relationship that exists, I mean, in the packaging. You talk to me about the packages that you have and the relationship with these farmers.
Well, it was very important to me to highlight the farmer on the packaging. And there were marketing firms in the beginning of this who said, oh, people don't want to see a picture of a farmer on the front. And I said, I don't care, because the farmer is an integral part of who we are as a company. We could make chocolate without the farmer. And so I wanted to highlight them, and we want a profit share with them. We want to show them how we derive at those profit share calculations. And so it was just very important to me to connect the people who like the chocolate with the farmer. And you know, and one of the things that we do to do that is we don't add stuff to the chocolate. We don't put vanilla or lecithin or flavorings or things like that. So what we're trying to do is highlight what they've done and try to not, quote, enhance the flavor in any way. And we work with them directly to influence the flavor. For example, I mean, I work with them on how to ferment the beans, how to dry the beans. So they do that to my specifications.
So the difference in drying the beans will affect the flavor?
Absolutely, especially fermentation. Fermentation is where all of the original flavor precursors develop during that process. So we want to have, you know, we want to have a say in that, because I can't hide bad beans in the processing that we do. I can't fix it at that point.
The getting foods into this country, difficult, bureaucratic, complex?
Yes, and even as a lawyer, it's complex. And we do all of that ourselves. Now, we have a freight forwarder and a customs broker and that sort of thing. But because of the areas that we deal with, I mean, these are not places that normally, you know, these brokers are dealing with shipping lines. So we end up having to do a lot of it ourselves. It is complicated. But you know what the most bureaucratic part of the whole deal is? It's the American government. I mean, it's more, surprisingly, the hard part isn't getting it out of the origin country. It's getting it into our country.
Who do you have to deal with at this end?
You know, we have to deal with Homeland Security, and it's just, there's so much red tape I can't even begin to explain. It would take me an hour to talk to you about the kind of frustrations that we've faced in trying to get this stuff to our factory timely. And Is
it very costly?
It is costly, and of course, with fuel going up, I mean, our shipping costs have gone up, and I'm, you know, happy to see oil back down, and I think it's going to have an impact. And we're actually getting, you know, just in the next 30 to 60 days, almost 20 tons of beans from 3 different places, and I'm hoping that the fuel charges will be lower, but it is expensive.
Is it? I mean, most of these are coming in by freighter, I presume.
Yes.
You're in Missouri. You're smack dab in the heartland of America.
Yeah.
You know, it's that if you take that point halfway across the country, you're just about there. Does it make sense for you to be there and not on the coast instead?
Well, you know, the way I look, well, first of all, I love Missouri. I love all of the things about, I love the amenities of it. And I think one of the amenities is, you know, from a trucking standpoint, from a rail standpoint. Yeah, I mean, it's a great distribution point for us because we distribute all over the country and around the world in some cases. And so for me, for example, if I'm getting from the Philippines, well, I'm going to use a California port. But if I'm importing from Ecuador, they're using a New York port. And in the case of Mexico, thankfully, because of where I'm in Missouri, I actually have those beans trucked all the way from Guatemala across the border all the way to Springfield.
So it makes sense on that level. Take our break, come back. We'll talk about that and talk about some of the political developments, how they affect businesses such as yours. Back in a moment. Don't go away. Back once again, continuing this fascinating story of Askinosie chocolate with the founder of the company, Shawn Askinosie. So from a distribution standpoint, you're right there. But let's talk about what fuel costs have done in terms of your business at all. We've seen gasoline prices and diesel prices drop recently, but they're still a lot higher than they were, and you went through that record binge as well. Right,
and you know, it'll be a while before the price that I'm having to pay for shipping will actually, you know, benefit from those reducing oil prices that we're seeing in the markets right now. I'm hoping, though, that there will be some impact. Of course, a bigger problem, not problem, but a bigger impact is bean costs have gone up 40% in 1 year. And so that's obviously something that we have to pass on to the consumer. And we don't obviously pass on the whole price, but...
Well, bean costs, I mean, talk to me about how bean costs are set, because if you're buying, I guess, directly in these various different places around the world, who sets the price?
Well, the price is set in various places. I mean, the commodities markets set the price of what we just call cocoa, and then fine cocoa. So the commodities market will set a per ton price, just like they will for coffee, sugar, everything else. But I'm dealing in these microeconomies. I mean, when I'm going to the border of Guatemala and Mexico, those farmers could care less what the commodities price of cocoa is. Right. But it has some influence on what their prices are going to be. But to give you an example, I mean, for the most part, we're paying double what the commodities price is, and sometimes even more than that, because another of our guiding principles is that we're going to pay above fair trade prices. And the fair trade price is easily found by anybody that can check on the internet. It's basically, and I think this is shocking, only $150 premium per ton. That's it. $150 per ton of cocoa, and it can be fair trade, among other things that it has to qualify to be fair trade, but that's not much of a premium to make its way to the farmer. $150 per ton.
What you are an artisan chocolate, I understand. Artisanal, I guess, is the way it's described. Is that?
Yes, artisanal, or I mean, we call ourselves craft chocolate makers.
Craft chocolate. Yeah. Do you have? So you're not competing, I guess, with Hershey or Cadbury or anybody like that. Do you have competitors out there?
We do, and there are probably 5 to 7 of us small batch craft chocolate makers in the United States, and maybe I'd say 30 in the world. But we don't compete with each other. We're competing for the hearts and minds of the public out there to give us a try when they compare us against what I call tasteless corporate chocolate.
How do you get on shelves? Where do you go? I mean, you have. What, Whole Foods? We talked about that.
Yes.
You're here in New York.
Right. Food Emporium.
Food Emporium. Dean and DeLuca, I believe, as well.
We're at a Dean and DeLuca location, and we've shipped several orders to Sweden. So we're sold in Europe, in Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway. We're sold in Singapore, and we have stores in Australia. And we're working on deals in India, China, the UK. So, but in answer to your question, what we do is we just deal directly with the stores.
You have no national or international distributor?
No, we do it ourselves. And there's only 10 of us at the factory. So we'll call a store and say, hey, you want to try a sample of our chocolate? And we send them a sample, and then either they say, yeah, we like it, we'd like to carry it, and that's pretty much it. And so we have those stores, throughout from coast to coast and Canada to Florida.
Well, what if you place a call to China and you get into, or anywhere else for that matter, and suddenly there's a huge demand? How do you handle that?
Oh man, that'd be great. That would be great, especially in this market that we're in. And just this week, I mean, we did have a company in China contact us that's very, very interested in a lot of chocolate. We're careful, we're careful, and this may sound odd. We don't just sell to anybody. For example, Walmart called. They were interested in carrying the chocolate, and we were just not ready for that. And I just don't think we're a fit with Walmart.
Well, you know what? We have to take a break. Let's come back and talk a little bit about